Hello, this is Andrine, the Jewish American Priestess. And this day I am going to bring a reading of the Hebrunes and some tarot, where we're looking at what's the current status of our spiritual direction that needs to happen right now. We're going to take the tarot cards and do a shuffle. I'm going to pull out two today, and you get to choose which one is calling to you. And then we're going to do a scatter spread for each of these. You're welcome to look at both piles as you desire. But let's take a shuffle and consider what is our spiritual direction right now in these times that we're in as we go at the time of year that I am doing this reading. We're heading into the darkness. We're heading away from the sunlight. We had a shift in the time, and we are in the northern hemisphere anyway, moving from the autumn into the winter. This reading is valid whenever you find it. Okay, so for card number one, we have the Page of Wands. And for card number two, we have the Queen of Wands. So take a moment to look into yourself and discover which of these two cards is drawing you toward the question of your current spiritual direction. And I will look forward to seeing you in your reading. Hello, those of you who chose the Page of Wands. Let's take a little look at your card here. So the pages of the tarot are those that are setting off on a new journey. They have the item of their suit, in this case a giant wand, and you can see this wand is blooming. It's a piece of wood, but it's a live piece of wood. The page is all about exploration, heading off in a new direction. And this particular page, the suit of wands, is about fire. So even though the wood is green in this depiction, wands hold fire within them. So they are about awakening inspiration. He's about excited to embark upon his journey, wherever it might be. And so there might be some concern or fear about that. But he's looking forward into the spark of the new adventure, being the fire suit. And you can see he's got a little feather in his cap that actually looks like a little bit like a flame, which I love. And in the background you can see pyramids or mountains of some sort. I love his green boots also. So this page, he's got the animal, the salamander, on his clothing. Salamanders are sometimes known as fire lizards. So the page is setting off on a new journey, a new adventure, and maybe that's what you are right now in your life, or about to be. So we're going to set the page off to the side here, and we're going to shuffle our Hebrunes and consider what spiritual direction are you heading off in right now on this time of year in your journey. And the way I'm going to do it today is I'm going to take a handful and just do a scatter reading. And we'll walk through that as we go. Okay. And we're going to just take what comes, because we don't always get to choose how things play out here. So the first thing I do is I take out each of the Hebrunes that is face down on the spread as they fell, except if we have the Ein Sof, which we do in this case. Okay, so I'm going to shift the camera a little bit so we can see better. So we ended up with 4 letters here, which is really interesting, the way they landed. On the left side, we have the Ein Sof. Now, the Ein Sof is the Hebrew that has no letter on it. It is the piece that represents the substrate, the fabric of the universe, basically that onto which all the letters are carved. And so it's the time before time. It is the space before space, and the divine, basic, infinite that comes before all else. In the beginning, right, there was the void, there was the nothingness, and the everythingness at the same time. The divine, in order to create the universe, needed to contract themselves into a place where there would be space for the universe to be created. And this is the time before that, and also the time after that. This is the time before time, and the space before space. So it represents the infinite and the divine, and the nothingness and the everythingness that comes, sort of like a black hole, in that it contains everything and nothing. It's so dense and also so vast. And this is on the left side, and because I'm an English reader, I read left to right. So what's come before here is this great blankness, this great unknown, perhaps, the void, the tohu vavohu, the darkness, and the unknown, the deep, out of which all things come. And there's been a time of mystery, and there's been a time of unknowing. Spiritually, I mean, that's where we've all come from initially, is the space of unknowing, the space of the vast wasteland that comes before we step into the world. As somebody who is working with journeying forward, you come from this space of blankness into adventure, perhaps. That's what we're looking at here. And at the top here, we have the letter Aleph. Aleph is the number 1. So it is the first letter. It's the first letter that is carved into the unknown. It's the divine, with the letter Yud above and the letter Yud below, and the connection, the Vav, that looks like that staff that the Page of Wands is carrying. So a connection of divinity and humanity, a connection of heaven and earth, and this idea of oneness, where those two disparate areas and ideas come together. So it is about spirituality coming together into the soul of humans. Being the number 1, it stands for the oneness that one has with the divine. It's also the first letter of most of the names of the divine. So El, El Elyon, Elohim, Adonai, all begin with Aleph, as does Adam and Adamah. Adam and Adamah, earth, mud, and human. So it's that first letter that spells both the names of the divine and the names of humans on earth. Interesting thing about Aleph is it has this representation of oneness and manyness. So that paradox between one thing having many, many faces and many things making up one thing, like the number of stars in the universe. Say we have trillions of stars in the universe, but we have one universe. We have trillions of cells in the body, but we have one body. We have one divine, but we have billions and trillions of faces of the divine. So it represents multiplicity within unity. And that's something to focus on right now spiritually. It's the highest letter in the reading. So it's it's this concept of how do we accept the multiple faces of divinity in the world right now. How do we accept that all the representations of the divine are one divinity, regardless of how they appear in the world? So this paradox of the Aleph, which means one, and if you put a different vowel set in it, Aleph means 1,000. We have both of those things here together in the Aleph today. It's a beginning, but it's also this multiplicity. And down in the lower right corner, we have two letters that are very similar looking. We have the Resh and the Dalet. And I love the way they fell. So it looks a little bit like what we might call a yin and yang. They're at an angle, and one is upside down and one is right side up. And I'm going to go with reading Dalet first. Now Dalet is on the left side, and it's a little bit upside down, usually upside right. It looks like this, and it fell like this. Dalet is the letter that represents a doorway. It's about walking through and transitioning to the next phase of a thing. I'm thinking, because it's upside down, in this particular reading, it is representing a doorway within ourselves. It's an inner doorway. When things are shifted like this, sometimes it can mean a negative thing, but I'm not getting that right now. I'm getting that we need to find the doorway within ourselves right now toward the divine. Because we're talking about spirituality here and stepping forth. And although we are physically stepping forth in this card with the Page of Wands, we are also stepping forth with our courage and with our desires to grow and discover spiritually. The Dalet is the number 4 in Gematria. The 4 has these connotations of all the directions, north, south, east, and west. It has the connotation of all the elements, the earth, air, fire, and water. And the 4 letters of the divine name, the Yud, He, Vav, He. Dalet also has this additional connotation of the doorway into the world, the birth canal, the delta of Venus, the feminine genitalia. So there is something about passing through a birth canal. Because we have pyramids in this particular card, it makes me think of the Exodus from Egypt and going through the Red Sea, the water, in order to come out on the other side, birthed into a new being, into a new adventure. So something that is coming, or that is on the brink of appearing right now, is this adventure through a doorway, an inner doorway, that feels like a birth. It feels like, and births can be very just uncomfortable and very painful and very terrifying, both for the parent and for the child who is being born. So there may be something having to do with sexuality. There may be something having to do with just the challenge of transitioning from one state into another, the difficult passage through whatever doorway it is that you're passing through in order to be born out onto the other side. And it's happening internally. It's happening inside yourself. And it may be happening physically outside as well, but mostly it's about traveling through that doorway inside, finding the right direction, finding the correct elements to carry with you through that doorway. So it may be a good time to sit with the different elements. In this case, we have fire, but maybe there are other things that we might benefit to carry through, a stone or some kind of water element, or even an air element like the feather in the cap of the page here. So sit with the elements, sit with the directions, and listen to your internal compass to guide you through the doorway that is coming. And then the next letter, the last letter in our reading, is the letter Resh. and it's cocked this way, which again I love because it looks like the page looking up like this, and you can see that little feather on its cap. Resh is the letter that begins the word Rosh, which means head, and so because it is a head, it looks like he's looking upwards. And the head is a new thing. It's the part of the body that generally exits on a birth first. So we have this new beginning that's coming, the birth of a new thing, the adventure, the heading out, like Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Chodesh. We have a resh, a head. Resh is the letter that is in the very first word of Torah. Bereshit is right there in the beginning. So a new beginning. Resh represents the binary transformation of seed and barrenness. So we have a potential here. We have a potential for something new, a seed that is being planted, and a new adventure that is coming into being here. Resh is the letter that I correspond with the matriarch Rachel, who is the mother of Joseph, the dreamer, and Benjamin, the youngest son, who is sometimes depicted as a wolf. Rachel is the one who struggled with her fertility, so her ability to bear children was delayed quite extensively in her relationship with Yaakov, and she eventually gave birth to Joseph, who turned out to be a wonderful dreamer, and then she died in childbirth with Benjamin. And she's seen as a matriarch of those who are trying to conceive and have safety in childbirth. This is a month we're in right now where she was said to have died. And so a lot of people make pilgrimage to Rachel's tomb at this time of year in Israel and pray for supplication from her. There are references to her in the prophets where she is weeping over the children of Zion. So Rachel is here and she's looking up. She's looking up to something new, some new birth, some new adventure that's coming in to your life, some new spiritual adventure. Because Dalet, although it's a birth canal, also can represent death, which is a doorway of sorts as well, a transition into the next iteration, however that may look. So all transitions are doorways, regardless of how they appear to those who don't go through the door. The person who's leaving or moving into the next world, arriving in the new world, they are having the adventure, regardless of how people perceive them. So we have the Resh here as a new beginning, a new transition, and the Dalet through which the Resh has headed. The Aleph, remembering to connect the divinity and the humanity of all things with that wand that's in the center there, to really hold on to that wand that connects heaven and earth. The number one, remembering that all aspects of the divine are still divine. And back here, the Ein Sof, where we've come from and to which we return. To which we return, because although we see time as linear, it's actually circular. There's spirals and circles that happen, and we all end up back to the place of the oneness, of the nothingness, of the everythingness. So as you head out on your spiritual adventure, pay attention to that feeling of emptiness and fullness, the void. Remember your connection with the divine. Step through your doorway and head out looking up on your new adventure toward the divine. So for those of you who chose the Page of Wands this morning, this has been your reading. I hope that you have a beautiful adventure, however you're setting out today, and we will see you here next time. Hello, those of you who chose the Queen of Wands today. Let's take a look at her. So the Queen of Wands is seen as the Queen of Fire. So the wand suits are about fire, even though you can see that the wand itself is blossoming. It has leaves growing on it, so it is green wood. But she is the suit of fire, as wood carries within it the potential for fire from the sun. The trees which take sunlight and convert them into actual substance, then release that sunlight when they burn. You can see that she also has a sunflower here in her left hand, and on the back of her throne, creatures that look like fire. And at her foot, she has this black cat. You can see sometimes she is seen as a witch of the tarot because she has this wand and this cat. She's full of magnetism and influence, personal power, warmth, and joy. The Queen of Wands is passionate. The fire suit often represents passion or even sexuality. She's got this infectious energy and is very bold and passionate and inspiring. So she has this idea of creativity and enthusiasm and fiery heart. And so she leads as the matriarch, as the sovereign who nurtures the fire and who inspires the passion. And this is a lovely card for a spiritual upcoming for you. We're going to take a handful of the Hebrunes as we set her off to the side and shuffle a bit and see what sort of spiritual direction is coming for you right now as we are heading into this time of year. And again, this reading is available and appropriate whenever you find it. So the first thing I do when I do a scatter reading like this is I remove the letters that are face down and we leave the rest. And so in this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters for you today. All right, let's see. We're going to start with the letter that landed right on the Queen herself, and we have the letter Chet. And the letter Chet is the first letter of the word Chai, which means life. And it's also the first letter of the word Choshek, which means darkness. So the fact that this landed on the Queen here, it's like, and it's tilted, so not quite upright. I can see it being humbled, like the life and the darkness are both humbled with the Queen here. She is the one who lights up fire. So if there's darkness, it is bowing to her at this point. Chet is the letter that looks a little bit like a chuppah, so it's about marriage, which is appropriate for the Queen of Wands being about passion and sexuality. It's a contract and a covenant that one might make with another person or with the divine or with oneself even. So since we're talking about our spiritual journey, perhaps we're making a new covenant with divinity and a new, let's say, commitment to connecting with divinity, connecting with life, choosing life, and facing our inner darkness. As we move into this time of year right now, when I'm doing this reading, we're moving into the darkness from the autumn into the winter. So perhaps there's this challenge spiritually that we're dealing with. How do we support and encourage life as we move into darkness and face our darkness? And the Queen of Wands has the potential for fire. So she has the ability to light up the darkness. Even when it's looking dark outside, she has the potential to make fire. I'm going to set this next to her here. A little bit lower on the reading here, we have the letter Kuf, and it's landed upside down. And when I'm reading these letters in this particular reading, I'm reading the upside down ones as being about what's going on inside. So generally, the kuf looks like this upright. And the kuf stands for, initially I think of it in terms of the word kadosh, which means sacredness. What is internally sacred for you right now in your life? What is it that you can tap into beneath the surface that is sacred? Since this is upside down, our inner sacredness. Where is that light? Where is that spark that of the divine that dwells within us right now? What is holy in your life? What can you tap into and make a commitment to right now that is going to bring about more holiness for you in your life? And kuf also is the first letter of the word kof, which means monkey. And to that end, it's about our animal nature, our humanity in a very basic animal sense. What is our monkey mind doing? How are we able to tame it right now? How can we reconcile our animal nature and our sacredness, our holiness, our connection with divinity inside, as we struggle maybe with our passions, those which maybe don't serve us, because sometimes, of course, passions can lead us astray, particularly sexuality. So if there is a struggle with our animal nature, how can we shift that to help it be more sacred in our life? How can we tap into our inner sacredness right now as we're going into this time of darkness? A little further lower on the reading, we have the letter Ayin. And Ayin is the letter that represents an eye. So it's about seeing. It's about being watched over as well by the divine. It's interesting that it's very low on the reading, but it's like it's a foundational thing. The foundation is we are watched over by divinity. The foundation is that we will be able to see our way forward in the situation, whatever it might be spiritually. That if we can get down into the deep part of ourselves, we'll be able to see better. So I'm seeing Ayin right here as saying, spend some time sitting, spend some time looking deep within and trusting that we're being watched over by divinity in order to be able to see our way forward. Ayin is the number 70 in Gematria, and 70 is an ultimate completion number. So 7 being the number of days of creation, and 10 times 7 being this ultimate manifestation of that. So there's something that may be coming to an end, something that is being completed for us. And we need to be able to trust in divinity, and we need to be able to see our way forward. And the way to do that is to really focus on our inner sight, down as a foundational piece of our practice. Next to that, we have the Dalet, and the Dalet is on the back. She's lying on her back. So this is what Dalet looks like normally, and we find her like this down low on the reading. Dalet represents a doorway or a gateway. Interestingly, in conjunction with the Queen of Wands, Dalet also represents the birth canal and the female genitalia, like the delta of Venus. So there's something about transitions, moving through doorways, about being able to see the challenges of moving through a birth canal, either sexually or in the literal form of birth, as a way out to the other side. Dalet represents the binary transformation of wisdom and foolishness. So wisdom and foolishness, how do we move forward through a doorway wisely? How can we maybe use our foolishness and our humor or our silliness to walk through that doorway? What is it we're being asked to do with that binary transformation? Where do we land on that continuum? How will it best open that door for us? Is it to be super wise, or is it to be super foolish? is walking through the doorway wise or foolish right now? We need to be able to sit with that and determine and see our way forward. Because the Dalit is lying on its back, looking up at the sky, it says to me that this doorway may be a little more challenging to get through than we might normally find in a normal doorway, that we have to really go inside and see our way forward. Dalit is the number 4 in Gematria, and so it speaks to the 4 directions and the 4 elements. So how I'm seeing Dalit in this position is, can we find a way to use the elements to walk through the doorway? Do we need to light up a candle with the Queen of Wands here? Do we need to carry a stone with us? Do we need to find an air element like a feather, or some water element, something that represents water for us to carry, to get used as a key to open this door? How can we put the Dalit upright again so that it's more feasible to walk through? Dalit represents all things doorways, whether it be birth or death. So recognizing that each transition as we walk through it is a transition for the traveler. Those who are not walking through the doorway may see it differently than those who are walking through the doorway. So we need to trust that everyone's doorway is different, and that we need to use our own wisdom to find our way to walk through our doorway. Way over here on the right side, I have the letter Yud. The letter Yud, which is that one point. It's like a seed. And it's a seed that's been planted inside. The divine name begins with the Yud He Vav He. So here it is, the seed that's been planted within and has the potential for growth. Each piece of wood in each of the wands started with a seed, and each piece of wood has a potential to produce seed as well. So spiritually, we need to nurture that seed, to really take some time to let it rest underneath the ground. We can't rush a seed to grow. Right now, in this time of year that I'm doing the reading, seeds are all underneath the ground in their seed cases, absorbing the moisture from the soil and the nutrients around it, ready to burst forth, but they're not ready yet. So seeds are sleeping, seeds are in darkness, in that choshech with the chet up there. And we have to let them be in the darkness for a period of time before they're ready to sprout. This being very far over on the right side, I think we're looking at a time of cycles, that this is the seed time of year. This is the cycle time spiritually for you, that it is important to let those seeds be there, to know they're there, to see that they're there, and let them rest and do their work internally before they can burst forth into something that's coming next. And the last letter in our reading today, way up high, we have the letter Nun. The letter Nun, which begins the word Ne'aman and means humbleness or humility. And you can see it looks a little bit like a person who's kneeling and bowed. It's time for taking space to be humble to ourselves, to our divine, spiritually being humble. You know, we don't need to walk around with our heads hanging all the time, but taking time in contemplation. I see Nun as corresponding to the Hermit card in Tarot. So take some time to go inside, to really kneel down, and like I said with the Ayin, try to see your way forward, to see your inner vision, to listen to the divine in a place of contemplation and humility. Nun is also the first letter of the word Nes, which means miracle. So we have this potential for a miracle, and sometimes we need to find our humility in order to recognize the miracles as they come. It's not always easy. But the best way to access the miracle is to remain humble, to not become haughty and think we know everything that's coming, to trust in the divine, to really listen in, to sit in contemplation and listen in. And that's the highest letter in the reading today, so I get the sense that that's really important, is this humility piece. So as we're traveling with the Queen of Wands in our spirituality, there is this fire and this passion and this potential for life. The letter Het, which has the potential for life with high, but also darkness. Also sitting with our shadow self. Lighting up a flame perhaps with those wands, but also recognizing how important the darkness is, that without the darkness we can't see the light at all. That our time here with the Kuf is about finding our inner sacredness. That we have to trust that the divine is watching over us, and that we will be able to see our way forward through whatever completion is coming. That there's a doorway, that we need to walk through that doorway, or find a way to upright the doorway to make it easier, perhaps finding some keys within the elements, be able to sit and know what direction to go. Dal also means poor, so it has a sense of humility along with it. So maybe ducking our heads so that we can walk through that doorway. And the Yud over here, there's a seed that is being planted or has been planted that needs to rest in its dark space right now to be able to grow forth when the time is ripe. But not right now, there's just a seed. And remaining humble, remaining in our humility, sitting and listening and being able to see the miracle when it's ready to be born, when it's ready to sprout forward through that doorway. So for those of you who chose the Queen of Wands, this has been your reading about where your spiritual path is taking you right now. I wish you a wonderful time on this journey, and we will see you here next time.